Hey, this is Jack Bourne, founder of AW Pro Tools, a software that adds marketing automation and trigger-based automation to your Aweber software. Now, let me go ahead and show you, this is part 2 of a 2-part series on showing you how to pass Google Analytics parameters through the AW Pro Tools Smartlink so that you get the benefit of the marketing automation built into AW Pro Tools, and you can use Google Analytics to track your campaigns. So I already showed you one method which involved, just to recap, which involved creating the full URL using the Google Analytics tool, creating that first, and then pasting that into AW Pro Tools as the full landing page. So in other words, I took that long URL with all of the Google Analytics parameters we built in, and I copied and pasted that entire long URL as the target page, as the landing page. Okay, now with this method, we're going to do it in reverse. So in the first step, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new link, and let's call this Deadline Funnel GA Demo 2. Now in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just use deadlinefunnel.com, and so I would use the landing page. So in reality, it might be something like special offer, something like that. But let's just use the homepage URL. I would never send paid traffic there, but let's just use it as an example. Now, in this method, it's really important that there not be any sort of parameters on the end. So foo equals whatever. You can't have any parameters on the end. Okay, so in other words, this could be page 1 or something like that, or even something like folder page, something like that, but you can't have the parameters like question mark, something equals something else. Okay, so we've got our destination URL, and so that's where we want our traffic to end up, but we also want the Google Analytics parameters to end up on the end. So let's just go ahead and create this link, and I'm going to choose that let's say that we're going to mail this list. So I choose next step, and I'm going to choose move to a new list. When they click the link, let's move them here. And I don't want to add additional actions on this link, so I'll click no. So now I'm given a URL. So let's take this URL, I'll copy it to my clipboard, and let's go over here. Now this is where I did the first one, so let's give myself some room, and there's the URL that we just created. Okay, so just pay attention to the stuff below this line. All right, great. Now what we want to do is we want to go back to the URL builder, and if we haven't done so yet, what we want to do is we want to go ahead and create the parameters as I've already shown you. But let me just run through this again real quick. So this doesn't matter so much, and I'll show you why in a second, but I'm sending people to deadlinefunnel.com. But what is important is everything below here. So I'm going to cue in the source, the campaign medium, the campaign term, the ad, and give the campaign a name. And then once I've done that, I click submit, and that generates this long URL. Okay, and you saw me do that in part 1. So you might be wondering, well, how is this really different? I'll show you. So what you want to do is you want to highlight and copy, and you want to go ahead and paste this right here. Okay. So I'll just go ahead and let's see if I can, just don't pay attention to the stuff that's above the line. All right, so we have our long URL here. So what we want to actually do is we're going to copy and paste this Smartlink into our Aweber email as normal. But what we're going to do in addition is we're also going to do, so you see how there's the question mark right here? Let me try to increase the size of this text here. So you notice it says, here's the actual link, and then it says question mark E equals, and this is where Aweber is going to put in the person's actual email address. Well, what if we want to add additional parameters? Well, what would happen is, if we do it correctly, which would be to start with the ampersand, and do something like name equals John, this information will be passed by AW Pro Tools to the landing page, whatever we put there. So we could also add and last name equals Smith, and I'm just making this up. Okay, so let's go from a made-up example to an actual real example. So what if we put the ampersand and we grabbed everything off of the off of the Google Analytics URL, except for this bit right here. So in other words, we just take everything that was on the end and we move it right here. Okay, let me decrease the size of this so it makes a little bit more sense. If I can get everything on one line. Okay, so here's what the link actually looks like. So we have our smart link and we have $E equals and then the email, and then we're going to pass some additional parameters on to the end of the page. Now I'll show you that this works, I'll prove it to you that this works, and then I'm going to explain what a possible benefit would be to this second method. I'm not going to say that it really just depends on your situation whether you want to use the first method I showed you or the second method that I'm showing you in this video. But let me show you one of the benefits after I show you that it works. So let's as I showed you in the first video, let's replace everything between the curly braces, including the curly braces, with a made-up email. So I'll just make that up. I'll copy the entire long URL, and let's open up a new tab, paste that in as I've done right up there, and then when I'm ready, I hit enter or return on the keyboard, and this will take me to deadlinefunnel.com. Notice that it passed all of the parameters right here on the end of the URL. So it works just the same, it just works a little bit differently. So you might be wondering, well, what's the benefit? Is there one that's better than the other? And the answer is, again, it really depends on your situation, but let me explain what the difference is. One of the key differences is that if you're using this second method, what you could do is that you could say, okay, now that I have this URL structure, what I could do is if I wanted to create a second URL to be able to do another test, rather than creating a completely new smart link, I can keep the same smart link, but what I can do is I can say, well, the source isn't Google, it's actually Facebook. And let's see here, the medium is, I could call it cost per click, and the terms, I might still be bidding on lead pages, and I'll keep the rest the same. And I could also do the same thing if I said, you know what, the source is actually email, and the medium is broadcast, maybe instead of autoresponder. And the term and the content, you can either leave those off or you can keep them on. It's really up to you. I don't want to get too detailed into strategies for using Google Analytics to its greatest effect. It really just comes down to how you want to track your links using Google Analytics. But what I'm trying to demonstrate is that we've taken the same smart link, and rather than having to create the smart link over again and again every time that we want to use a different string of parameters passed to the landing page, with this method we can do it on the fly. So just to recap real quick, if you focus on this bit up here, the really important thing is to take everything that was added at the end of the URL after the question mark, and we want to put an ampersand after our smart link, and then put all of those Google Analytics campaign URLs. And then what Aweber will do is they'll do us the favor of replacing out everything, including the braces and the exclamation email, that will be replaced with the person's actual email. So if you send it to bob@gmail.com, it'll be bob@gmail.com and have all of these other parameters on the end. So again, you have the benefit of the trigger-based, behavior-based marketing automation that AW Pro Tools adds to your Aweber marketing, but also you have the ability to pass parameters to your Google Analytics, which is going to be installed on your landing page. So I hope you enjoyed these two videos. Once again, my name is Jack Bourne. I'm the founder of AW Pro Tools. Head on over to AW Pro Tools and give it a 14-day free trial, and know that you're going to love the software because it adds tremendous amounts of power and marketing automation to your Aweber software.